We finally get a Nick Chubb update, or at least some rumors regarding when Chubb could return to the field. Mary Kay Cabot from Cleveland.com, who does a great job of covering the team, she did an AMA on Reddit today, and one of the questions was, when are we going to see Nick Chubb back? And she pointed to November, which I'm going to give to Bernie heads. We use Bernie heads as a scale of believability when it comes to some of the rumors we see out there. So let's see what Mary Kay had to say first, and then we'll kind of dive into when I think Nick Chubb could return and my reaction to this altogether. But she wrote, I'm guessing Chubb will be back around mid-season. He's working very hard inside the building. Maybe they'll give him until after the bye week, November 3rd, to return. When I read this, my initial reaction was surprised. I did not think Nick Chubb would have to wait all the way until November, which puts him pretty much at 12 months removed from his second knee surgery, which he got after the Week 2 injury against the Steelers last year. So, yeah, colored me as surprised if Nick Chubb returns in November, but I still think that, sorry, the voice is kind of gone from this weekend. I still think there is a decent amount of truth and possibility around Nick Chubb coming back mid-season. If we look at the Browns schedule here, and we're talking about a potential November return, I mean, he's already out for the first 4 weeks of the season on the PUP list. I was holding out hope that, hey, maybe we see him week 5 or week 6, sometime in early October. But that does not seem to be very likely. Instead, if you look at the November-December portion of the Browns schedule, Mary Kay is kind of eyeing that maybe week 11 game in New Orleans following the bye, which if Nick Chubb isn't available for the first 8 or 9 weeks, I don't hate the idea of, hey, let's just give him an extra week following the bye. Plus, that kind of gives the whole team and the coaching staff a little bit more time to get a new-ish game plan installed for Chubb coming back, because things are going to be different when Chubb is introduced into the offense again, right? You're not going to have the Jerome Ford or Deonte Foreman show, which, listen, through 2 weeks, small sample size, outside of one really nice run from Jerome Ford on 4th down against the Jags, it hasn't been a really good ground game altogether. Like, you can point to the offensive line not being at its best and not being fully healthy, and that's a fair critique to say. But at the end of the day, I think that we've seen a lot of Jerome Ford, and we're seeing glimpses of Deonte Foreman, which at times we see some good runs, but we're not seeing the human eraser that is Nick Chubb. And Nick Chubbs don't come around on trees every single year in the draft. So I'm not surprised that the Browns haven't been able to fully replicate or even somewhat closely replicate Nick Chubb, because you can't do that. But I am very excited, as we all are, for Nick Chubb to return. But when it comes to a November return, I want to say I'm surprised, but at the same time, like, we thought Jed Wills and or Jack Conklin would be ready for week 1, right? That was somewhat of the messaging we got from the team that, hey, we think one, if not both of these tackles can be ready for start of the season. Not only did both miss week 1, both missed week 2, and I don't think we're all that close to getting both back on the field as early as week 3. So with those rehabs not going to plan, I definitely think it's possible that Nick Chubb's rehab may not be going to, I wouldn't say plan for the Browns, but plan for the fan base that was just so eager to get him back. And when we got those videos over the summer of him squatting 600 pounds, I mean, that was just dangling like football porn in front of us that we're going to get Chubb back as early as week 1 or week 2. And ultimately, I think the Browns are looking at Chubb as, hey, we don't want to burn him out too quickly, so let's give him even extra time to rest and recover and rehab, and that way we can get 100% of Nick Chubb for a playoff push, and not a Nick Chubb that maybe came back a little bit too quickly and needs some more time to rehab, and it's start, stop, start, stop. I think they want to go full throttle as soon as Nick Chubb can get to a full throttle spot. Now, before we get to the rest of the rumors on today's episode, we are going to do a like battle and a subscriber battle with our Giants channel here at Chat Sports. So if you want to beat the Giants in week 3, improve to 2-1, you guys know it all starts on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up button, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you guys on Sunday for our watch party when hopefully the Browns beat the Giants on the field and help me take down Marshall Green here at Chat Sports, our host of Giants Now. Second rumor I want to get to, should the Browns trade for Bryce Young? The Carolina Panthers quarterback is benched, and the Browns may be interested in his services. I'm going to give this one Bernie head, and for me, it just really boils down to I don't think Bryce Young is very good. And that's probably why there's not going to be a whole lot of motivation from the Browns even to be interested in Bryce Young, regardless of what is going on with Deshaun Watson. But this idea was floated out there by Heavy.com, which I don't really know what Heavy.com is, but they always pop up on my feed. Anyway, so they suggested the Browns trade for Bryce Young. And if you didn't see earlier, the Panthers are benching Young for Andy Dalton and the first overall pick of the 2023 draft. I think might be done in Carolina. This seems like a tough genie to put back in the bottle. I don't know how you go from benching your first overall pick 2 games into the season to reinstating him later on and not having some kind of fracture or turmoil just build up to the point of no return. But I can give this one at least one Bernie head because we are talking about Andrew Berry, right? A GM who is addicted to trades. I mean, we didn't think the Browns were interested in Brandon Ayuk, and all of a sudden they emerge as a finalist. So if Andrew Berry sees a highly touted, highly drafted player who he believes has a ton of talent, we can't put it past him to at least pick up the phone, call Carolina, and see what the asking price is for Bryce Young. So we'll talk more about this in just a second here. But today's show is made possible thanks to our friends over at Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time has so many awesome features, but the one I really enjoy probably the most is you get a great bird's eye view of your seat before you purchase your ticket. That way, when you show up to the arena, the stadium, or the venue, you know exactly what you're getting, and there's no surprises in a bad way. So download the Game Time app today to take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Create an account once you download Game Time and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHAT Sports for $20 off. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Now let's circle back to this Heavy.com trade idea, which is blasphemy when suggesting that the Browns are going to give up a second or a third round draft pick. Like, I could see the Browns just looking at Bryce Young as, hey, we think that's a really talented player and we're all about value here. So if we can get a really talented player at a very important position like quarterback for a 5th or a 6th round draft pick, yeah, I wouldn't put it past the Browns for looking at Bryce Young as, hey, that could be a really good potential backup for Deshaun Watson. Or if internally they are panicking over Deshaun Watson and they feel like Bryce Young can be an upgrade from what they already have in the quarterback room, which I don't think that's the case. Give me Jameis Winston and maybe even DTR over Bryce Young. But so far, he has just sucked. Like, Bryce Young is not a good quarterback. And you can blame a lot of it on the Panthers, but I'm watching way too many clips of him just missing throws, taking bad sacks. I think we have a pretty good idea as to who Bryce Young is as a quarterback. An undersized guy that thrived in college with a ton of talent around him and a great offensive line in Alabama that was really accurate, and the best part of his game has completely vanished in the NFL, his accuracy. So I am not interested in giving up a 2nd or a 3rd round draft pick for Bryce Young. Absolutely nothing more than a 5th round pick. So it's Andrew Berry. We can never put it past him to, make a phone call, see what the asking price is for a highly touted drafted player, but I'm not interested in giving up anything more than a 5th. I mean, look at some of the recent trades, for example, for guys who went top 5 in the draft and ultimately didn't work out. Zach Wilson, day 3 pick swap. Is Bryce Young all that different than Zach Wilson at the end of his time in New York? I don't think so. Baker, he went for a 5th round draft pick. It was a conditional pick, 4th or 5th, so max of a 4th rounder. I think a lot of teams kind of learned from the Sam Darnold trade, right? He went for a 6th, a 2nd, and then a 4th. No team wants to make that same mistake again that Carolina made. So back to the idea of Darnold to the Browns. Doesn't seem very likely to me because I think internally the Browns are so much more optimistic about Deshaun Watson than the public is. I don't think they are abandoning him after one bad week 1 game against a good Cowboys team in his first game back when he historically gets off to slow starts to begin with anyway. I think there is a much more upbeat, positive feeling in the Browns locker room and in that front office. And I don't think they're going to kick the tires on a Bryce Young trade if the Panthers are truly shopping him right now. But let me know what you think. Would you trade for Bryce Young? I think we can at least have the conversation because Deshaun Watson has not shown us enough to the point where we can at least explore other quarterback possibilities. Like, he's got to put together a few more games in a row before we can squash that idea. But for me, I'm typing N for no. Third and final rumor here. Is it time to panic over Amari Cooper? This is fake news. No, I am not panicking over Amari Cooper. I have a very good feeling that Cooper and Watson are going to get back on schedule, back in sync, and we're going to see the Amari Cooper that we saw put up historic numbers his first 2 years in Cleveland. But I'm not going to try and sell you guys oceanfront property in South Dakota. It has not been good so far for Amari Cooper. But there is a slimmer of good news here. Like 5 grabs for 27 yards is not good. But Deshaun Watson is still going to his number one guy. 17 targets in 2 games. So clearly Watson is not losing faith in Amari Cooper. I 100% expect a bounce-back game week 3 against the Giants. This is a great matchup for Cleveland's offense to kind of get back in sync and in rhythm with number 2. Look at the Giants secondary. Here are their Pro Football Focus ranks. 2 games only, so not a huge sample size, but they're not off to a very good start. First-round pick Deonte Banks, yikes. Cor'Dale Flott out of LSU, yikes. Their rookie out of Kentucky who's playing the nickel, he's been their best DB by a mile. 9th out of 98 qualifying corners. Both of their safeties, I mean, average would be generous for those 2 guys right there. So you know what? I'm going to make a big, bold take right now and say 100 yards, 2 touchdowns for Amari Cooper in week 3. If that's what he's going up against, and keep in mind the Giants also have to have eyes on Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore, and possibly David Njoku if he is back. Yeah, I think Amari Cooper's going to put up one of those games like we saw in Houston last year in the regular season. Before we get on out of here, I want to show some love to the Brown and Orange Club. Tim Green, Mike Dibble, Jeremy Stallman, Slow But Sure, David Botner, Jared Brandt, James Harper, Papa T, Joseph DePorte, Mike, Ray Bidding, Dr. No, Eli Green, John Porter, and Scorpion. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. If you want to get a shout out all season long, hang out with us during our watch parties on Sunday, a $50 super chat. Really appreciate your generous support of the channel, and we'll get you on screen all watch party season long and throughout the entire year as well. All right, make sure to follow us over on Instagram. Hit me up on Twitter, subscribe, all that YouTube cliche stuff, and I'll see you all later.